Welcome to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Rob Bentley, along with Sandy Golston, as we get set for the second season, the NCAA Division II football playoffs. This Saturday, the Ferris State Bulldogs taking on Central Oklahoma, a 12 p.m. kickoff at Top Taggart Field. And after a bye week, really looking forward to seeing this Ferris State football team back in action.
Yeah, it was just 1 week for the bye, but it just feels like longer, even though we certainly have not been lacking for anything to do during that bye week. But it's going to be exciting to get back into the booth, and it's going to be exciting to get started for us this year with playoff football. And so I'm really looking forward to it. We have an excellent opponent that's coming in Central Oklahoma. We know it's going to be a great matchup here, a matchup that a lot of people across the nation are going to be talking about. So it's going to be exciting to be back in the booth.
Of course, Central Oklahoma comes in 11-1 overall after an overtime win over Ouachita Baptist in the opening round of the Division II playoffs. Ferris State 10-1, of course, and the Bulldogs have won their last 10 games in a row. Of course, captured the GLIAC regular season championship. A battle here, kind of like some other games we've seen in Super Region 3 between two potential teams that are capable of winning a national championship.
Well, I mean, if history is any indicator, we know the last three national champions have come out of this region, and there are a lot of teams in this region that are still alive right now that feel like they have an opportunity to be that team. And two of them are going to be here in Big Rapids at Top Taggart Field and in terms of Ferris State and Central Oklahoma. And so, again, anybody you suit up with or suit up against in Super Region 3 is going to be a very strong program. And that's what we expect again here this Saturday.
Of course, a lot of news to catch up on. We did not have a show last week with the bye week, but the Bulldogs are coming off their most recent game, the Calder City Classic against Davenport, a two-trophy game. Ferris State defeated Davenport and obviously won not only the Calder City Classic trophy for the first time, but captured the GLIAC championship, which I know meant a great deal to head coach Tony Anise here in this Bulldog program.
Well, not only to head coach Tony Anise, but I think to all of our players and our coaches and absence makes the heart grow fonder, and not having won the GLIAC championship since 2021, which includes a national championship season in 2022, it felt really good for the team to be able to hoist that GLIAC championship trophy here at Top Taggart Field and to really be able to celebrate that one, and then to be able to win the inaugural Calder City Classic trophy, which is a beautiful trophy that's right here in front of us that we can stare at, is really a great feat for this team, and to do it over a great Davenport team with Sparky McEwen and AJ McEwen and the other coaches that we know so well. For that Davenport team, they gave us a great fight in that game, just a really tough first half. They led at halftime, and the Bulldogs did a good job with a strong second half to be able to win that and claim those two trophies. Of
course, we do need to get that trophy into the trophy case. The Bulldogs have already won some trophies here this year, won the Anchor Bone Trophy again, and obviously the GLIAC championship, and that's really kind of the first goal that Ferris State sets here at the beginning of the year, and now a chance here as we enter postseason action to really break some ground on some other goals the Bulldogs would like to achieve.
And I think it felt good to get that first goal and to feel that sense of accomplishment. But what that sense of accomplishment does is it makes the team hungrier, and now they want to go on and start to work toward that next goal. And that next goal right now is just finding a way against Central Oklahoma team that's been lighting up the scoreboard in the MIAA, one of the toughest conferences in Division II.
Of course, we'll talk more about Central Oklahoma as the show goes on. Here today, we'll hear from junior quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, named the GLIAC Player of the Year, and actually just today named a candidate for the Harlan Hill Trophy. So certainly has had an outstanding season and really has become kind of the leader, especially on the offensive side here of this football team.
Yeah, what an inspiring story he has been, and the way he's bounced back since that week 0 setback that the team had. He and the rest of his teammates really did a great job of bouncing back, and he has been a remarkable story, what he's been able to do. And I'm excited to hear from him and to hear some of his insights about how he has progressed over the course of the season, how the team around him has also progressed over the course of the season. And so going to be really excited to hear from him.
Of course, not only was he honored as the GLIAC Player of the Year, also named to the All-GLIAC First Team, and one of 20 players here on this Ferris State team that earned all-conference honors. Head coach Tony Anise named the GLIAC Coach of the Year, so some great honors that were bestowed on the Bulldogs following the conclusion of the regular season.
Well, obviously, two outstanding individual honors to get the GLIAC Player of the Year and also to get the GLIAC Coach of the Year. It's just tremendous and a testament to the strong season that the Bulldogs have had. But it's really been great, Rob, to see on that all-GLIAC team, and you look and you see so many areas represented with Ferris State players, and I think really great recognition to see those in particular, I mean, not to single out, but to really see that offensive line be so well represented for the work that they did, especially down the stretch of the season. But it's really great to see all of our Bulldogs on both sides of the ball. We've had a strong defense all year long, and it's really great to see those guys get recognition as well.
The Nasty Boys earning some big honors. Jarvis Wyndham, Lawrence Attar, Bryce George, all three named to the All-GLIAC first team. I think the Bulldogs had 8 All-GLIAC first team selections, another 7 named to the All-GLIAC second team, and then 5 named honorable mentions. So some deserving honors, and you're going to have that anytime you achieve the success this team has been able to achieve this year.
Yeah, it's outstanding, and again, it's so the depth of the quality players that we had represented on the All-GLIAC teams is tremendous, and there's some players that probably could have been there, but maybe some injury issues prevented some other players maybe from getting there, and so it really shows the great efforts that we've seen from our individual players and working together collectively as a team, because when you get that many all-conference selections in a league as strong as the GLIAC, you're doing something right.
I like what you said earlier. Really, it doesn't matter the position group. The Bulldogs had someone honored. Yes. Not only quarterback, you had Cannon Katzer in the offensive backfield. Receivers, Amari O'Brien, Cam Underwood were both on there. We talked about the offensive line. Mitch Middleton, the kicker for Ferris State, honored as one of the specialists. Then you flip it to the defensive side. I know Victor Nilsson, Deron Irving Bay honored up front. Sefa Saipaia at the linebacker level for the Bulldogs, along with Jason Williams. And then in the secondary, the Bulldogs had a number of guys: Alston Ware, Lento Smith, Justin Payout. So some great honors at the various levels here of each position group.
Yeah, and it just shows you right there that not a lot of weaknesses on this team, and it's up to each of our individuals and us as a team collectively to play up to that standard that we set for ourselves. But it really was great to see the Bulldogs represented in so many areas of what it takes to build a complete and great football team. And so, the Bulldogs are looking to see if they can continue to build toward that greatness and continue to work toward those goals. And they take it one step at a time. And, that next step is Central Oklahoma. Of
course, Central Oklahoma, the opponent on Saturday, a noon kickoff. So a little bit earlier than normal. We'll have the pregame coverage for you at 11 a.m. on Sunday 97.3. Of course, online as well at ferrisstatebulldogs.com. The game will be streamed on ESPN Plus with our video crew, courtesy of Ferris State Television. So some great recognition here for the program on the national level, getting on the ESPN Plus platform, and looking forward to having the call of what should be an outstanding game.
Yeah, it's going to be fun for us to be back in the booth, and we were so happy for the outstanding work of the television digital media production team. They do just such great work, and I'm excited for the tailgaters too. The tailgaters are gonna, I don't know if they're gonna be serving breakfast or what they're gonna be serving, but it's gonna be early to kick off from Top Taggart Field. But boy, I tell you what, not too many better places to be if you're a Bulldog than to be at Top Taggart Field on Saturday for this big game.
Of course, that early start, maybe it helps Ferris State a little bit. The Bulldogs traditionally practice. They're out there on the practice field from about 11 to 1 every day, so they're used to kind of playing at this time. So you never know what the other opponent does in terms of their practice plan, their practice schedule, but certainly can't hurt the Bulldogs playing at a normal time that they're used to.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a normal time that the Bulldogs are used to, A, and B, used to playing in the elements, whether it's windy or it's bitter cold and whatever it is. The Bulldogs have become used to that, and that's something there's something to be said for that. The Bulldogs embrace that, and it's a part of who this team is, and so they're going to be ready for that challenge. And so we'll see. Michigan weather, you never know in November, but right now feels pretty good outdoors in Michigan. We'll see what it has in store, when we get here on Saturday.
Of course, expecting potentially some light snow flurries here over the course of the week. Maybe some snow. Obviously, going to be a little bit chillier. Fans encouraged to bundle up, wear your coats, but hopefully shouldn't be too bad here. I know we've seen worse weather before. We had a snowstorm against Grand Valley State on Thanksgiving weekend just a few years ago.
That snowstorm, the Grand Valley snowstorm, was absolutely incredible. I don't know if that's necessarily coming, but it's going to be again, Michigan weather can be very unpredictable. We know certainly it's going to be chilly, if nothing else, and so again, who knows what kind of impact that's going to have on this game, but we know the Bulldogs are going to be preparing for that, and hopefully everybody will have a chance to warm up on Thanksgiving and enjoy some good food, enjoy the Lions, and some good family time if that's your thing, and kind of warm up to get ready for Saturday.
Of course, speaking of that school to the south, Grand Valley State, we'll talk more about them coming up here as well when we get into kind of the matchups going on around Division II football, the results from this past weekend. They got a win over Indianapolis, and the other Super Region 3 matchup, they've got a huge game against Harding coming up on on Saturday.
Yeah, Harding was obviously very impressive in knocking out Pittsburgh State, going on the road into the jungle and knocking out Pittsburgh State. Very impressive win, dominating win for Harding. And I think it's a game that people kind of thought Harding was going to win. Most people thought Harding was going to win, but the dominance that they had sets up an interesting matchup with Grand Valley. Grand Valley played Harding very tough last year, a 1-point game. With Harding being able to score late to win that game. And so it could be a very interesting matchup down there in Allendale.
We'll have plenty more coming up for you on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch, back after this quick break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as we get set for playoff football coming up this Saturday at Top Tiger Field, Ferris State and Central Oklahoma, a 12 p.m. kickoff. And, of course, the Bulldogs opening up playoff action. A lot of the other teams around the country opened this past weekend. The Bulldogs, of course, got one of the 4 byes here in the 2018 playoff field, and hopefully a chance to rest up and gear up for what they hope is a long playoff run.
Yeah, getting a bye week is certainly an advantageous thing at this time of the year, and Bulldogs were able to take advantage of that and last week and to kind of rest some people up and to sharpen some things and to get ready here as they are now into game week here, getting ready for Central Oklahoma. And boy, a lot of action, no shortage of great action across the country.
Let's kind of break down each super region. We'll take them one at a time with the results from this past weekend. Then obviously the matchups coming up this weekend, starting in Super Region 1, where Slippery Rock was a winner in tight fashion over New Haven, 14-7, the final score in that ball game. Slippery Rock, one of those teams that's traditionally been very strong in Super Region 1, and New Haven kind of gave them a game in that contest.
Yeah, maybe for some people a little bit closer than what they were expecting, but you mentioned Slippery Rock has a great tradition, and people know when they're playing the Rock that there's going to be a really tough game, and so give New Haven some credit for hanging in there, hanging tough, and nearly springing one there on the Rock.
Of course, Slippery Rock was the number 4 seed. They now move on to face the number 1 seed in Super Region 1 in Kutztown, who's unbeaten at 11-0 on the year. So Slippery Rock's going to have to go on the road. That's Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference kind of rivalry matchup, though, between those two teams here in round 2.
Yeah, Kutztown is they're a strong team. They're a very balanced team. They maybe don't necessarily do anything any one thing super spectacular, but they do a lot of things well. And so they have been, in some ways, because of that, maybe flying under the radar, but really quality program. And again, with those two teams going at it, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference rivals, it's going to be a great battle, going to be an intense battle, a lot of bragging rights and more on the line in that game.
3 PSAC teams still left in Super Region 1, as California, Pennsylvania was a winner as well, 30-27 over another PSAC school, East Stroudsburg. So half of the Super Region 1 playoff field was from the same league, and 3 of them move on here to the second round.
Yeah, East Stroudsburg is a program that's really come up. I know we had a chance to play them at Top Taggart Field several years ago, and their program has really come up since then. And, Cal PA is a really strong program as well. And so, it's some good football out there, and it always has been. I remember when I was an undergrad student and covering Ferris State for the Torch, the PSAC was one of the top conferences in Division II football. And so definitely some good football being played out there.
Of course, Kutztown was the 1 seed. The 2 seed Charleston got knocked out in the first round, as that was one of the upsets we had around the country in Division II football. They fall to a team we saw early in the year, and the Ashland University Eagles, former GLIAC school out of the great Midwest Athletic Conference, they win it 40-38 on a walk-off field goal.
Well, Ashland started out 0-2. IUP and Ferris State. They lost pretty convincingly to us in that game. And a lot of people wrote them off and said, oh, you know what, these guys are done. And we were talking about it, and we said, this is a good Ashland team, and they got a chance to get on a run, and they did. They ended up winning the GMAC and had a strong run through the rest of the regular season. I'm not sure if people gave them much of a chance against Charleston, but lo and behold, they win again. So that's a really good program. And, we've had a chance to see them up close and personal with that non-conference rivalry that transitioned from a conference rivalry, and they're still a very strong program.
Of course, we're live right here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch, talking about the NCAA Division II football playoffs. We'll move on to Super Region 2, where Miles was a winner, 14-13 in a tight one over Carson Newman. They move on to face unbeaten Valdosta State, the number 1 seed in Super Region 2.
Well, they're going to have their hands full against Valdosta State. Valdosta State is a team that's put up a lot of points this year down in their conference. And, people have wondered about them and their program. Of course, that's a team that we beat for the first national championship in 2021. The team that we lost to in 2018, the first time we got to the national championship game. And their program has been back on the rise, and they feel like this is an opportunity for them to emerge from that region.
Of course, like in Super Region 1, Super Region 2, the number 2 seed falls in that region as well as Wingate falls 34-31 in overtime to Virginia Union. So Virginia Union advances into the second round.
Yeah, I think Wingate was a team that people were pretty high on. I think probably about the midway point of the season, maybe a little bit deeper. People were getting really high on them, and they were rising up in the national rankings, or at least one of the national rankings for sure. They were rising up, and I think people thought maybe a chance for them to have a run, but Virginia Union, obviously, they had other plans.
Of course, in the other half of the bracket, Virginia Union will take on Lenoir-Rhyne as they won 37-34 over West Alabama, the 3 seed. So the 2 and the 3 seed go down in Super Region 2. Lenoir-Rhyne, a team that we had a chance to go down there and play them a few years ago. They had some uncertainty coming into the year with a new coaching staff, a lot of transfers that left the program. They added some new pieces, and yet here they are in the second round of the playoffs.
Here they are right back, and that's a significant upset. I think people were really high on West Alabama and thought that they had a chance to make a good run, but Lenoir-Rhyne is a team that you mentioned they've had to kind of rebuild rather quickly, and but they have a good tradition down there. They have a great stadium, a great facility that we had a chance to see firsthand, and a really strong program. And I think for them, it probably doesn't feel like as much of an upset as it maybe does, on a national and regional level.
Of course, we're going to save the best for last. The region maybe we have the strongest feelings about, Super Region 3. We'll get to that last. We'll move on to Super Region 4 first. And in Super Region 4, some good ball games here this past weekend. Augustana, the number 4 seed, falls to Minnesota State as Minnesota State wins it 20-19. The Mavericks moving on to round number 2.
Yeah, I think both teams are teams that, have been pretty highly ranked at different points of the season. And, it was kind of one that could have gone either way. And, give Minnesota State credit. That's a program that we're a little bit familiar with, and we had a chance to see them several years ago. And, we're just now thawing out from having that game out there in Mankato, Minnesota a few years ago. But good program and pretty solid win for them. And not a huge surprise, but certainly a big win for them.
Of course, Minnesota State, one of those programs, not only in football, but you think of their athletic programs,
yes.
Kind of like Ferris State. They had both teams in the Division II Elite Eight, both won national championships in basketball last year. Football's been very strong. Obviously, hockey, we have a chance to play them in the CCHA, so they've had some good success across the board.
Well, you love to see that, really strong all-around programs. And we had several teams that had both of their men's and women's basketball teams in the Elite Eight. And of course, being in the GLIAC, we're familiar with a lot of schools that certainly have balanced athletic programs. And so that's really great to see that investment and that standard of excellence that you see across the board at a lot of these schools. And Minnesota State certainly one of them.
We'll see if they can keep it going here in round number 2 this week. They'll take on the number 1 seed, which also received a first-round bye, Colorado State Pueblo, a team that's 10-1 overall. Their lone loss coming to Grand Valley State here earlier in the year, and they've really kind of stepped it up offensively here over the course of the season.
Yeah, they have. And they weren't bad earlier in the season, but they've certainly picked it up, and they've been able to, kind of dislodge Colorado School of Mines from dominance in that region. Of course, Colorado School of Mines, the back-to-back trips to the national championship game. And, I think being able to move them out of there and for them to be able to bounce back from that loss to Grand Valley earlier in the season to have the season that they have is a really good testament to that program.
Of course, one of their signature wins came over Western Colorado. Western Colorado, though, moves on to round 2 as well, 28-21 over Central Washington. So Central Washington out of the Lone Star Conference. Hard to believe that Central Washington's in the Lone Star Conference, but nonetheless, they fall and they're going home as Western Colorado came out victorious in that contest.
Rob doesn't think of Seattle as being from a Lone Star Conference, but and I can blame. We were out in Seattle area to play Central Washington, and I certainly concur. A very long ways from the state of Texas, but good programs right there. And again, we've had a chance. Central Washington was a team that was climbing up, and a lot of people were feeling pretty good about them. But boy, there's just some tough competition when you get to this time of the season, and you just got to really have your best game. And sometimes your best game is a little bit better than your competition, and that can make the difference in advancing or not.
course, we've talked about it this year. You got to be able to play anybody if you're looking for games in Division II football. And the Bulldogs certainly have been willing to take on any challengers. But that's one place I don't know if I ever want to go back to. That was a very long trip, maybe longer than the American International trip this year, especially maybe on a commercial flight going out to Seattle.
Not only on the commercial flight, but it feels like we were in buses forever on that trip. But, I mean, it was a fun experience to fly into Seattle and to look out and to see Seattle, to wake up and see the mountains. Yeah, it was fun. Do it again? I don't know if we have to. We have to, but it was an interesting trip for sure.
For those that don't recall, that was back in 2019. The Bulldogs, on about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, put up 63 points. So it was certainly worth it, I guess, in the end for the Bulldogs. Western Colorado will take on Bemidji State. They scored a big win in Super Region 4, defeating Angelo State, the 3 seed, 24-14 down in Texas. So the Beavers make the long trek to San Angelo, Texas, and come away with a win, and they'll take on Western Colorado.
I think those are some schools that are going to be happy with the regional realignment coming up here, because there's some long road trips for some of these teams. But it's a great win, and there's some good football being played in different conferences and in different regions, and that's a big win. A long way to go to get it.
Of course, we do want to talk about Super Region 3 now. We did save the best for last, so some big matchups in Super Region 3 this past week, while the Bulldogs had a chance to sit at home and watch some of those games. We'll start with Grand Valley State, the Lakers, a 24-7 win over Indianapolis. That game a little bit tighter than maybe the final score would indicate.
Yeah, we knew Indianapolis was going to come in and play tough, and Grand Valley's had to do some shuffling at quarterback and to make a difference there. They've had some people step up, and we knew Indianapolis is a tough team, and you just you don't really some people might be tempted to overlook them, but Grand Valley wasn't, and to their credit, they were able to find a way. But Indianapolis battled; they kept it tough, they kept it close, and Grand Valley able to pull away a little bit later to, get that margin of victory that they got. But tough game for Grand Valley, but they survived in advance.
They'll have a tough game coming up as well, as they will take on Harding this week. We'll talk about that here shortly. But Harding, what an impressive win, 48-3 over a team we saw to start the season in Pittsburgh State. They go into the jungle down at Carney Smith Stadium in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and come away with a 48-3 win.
Yeah, I think, I had Harding winning. I think a lot of people did. It was some mixed feelings about it, but I don't think anybody anticipated that margin, 48-3, and really it was just all Harding. Even though kind of a low scoring first quarter, but Harding really poured it on in the second quarter, and they just never took their foot off the gas pedal. They went into one of the toughest stadiums in the country to go in, and they were absolutely dominant on both sides of the ball.
Of course, 500-plus rushing yards for the defending national champions, kind of doing what they were able to do against some teams later in the playoffs last year after they got through Super Region 3. And that sets up a big matchup, kind of a rematch this year in round number 2 as they take on Grand Valley State. They're going to have to make the trip to Lubber Stadium. The Lakers, the higher seed, will host the game coming up on Saturday at 1 p.m. Down in Allendale. A year ago, it was Harding 7, Grand Valley State 6, as Harding went on to win the national title. But a tough matchup for the Lakers here at home this weekend.
It is a tough matchup. And, I'll say the same thing I said about Harding last week. Running game and defense travel well, and Harding does both really well. They run the ball and they stop the run. And so it's going to be really important, I think, for Grand Valley to not to try to get up on Harding early and try to get Harding a little bit out of its element. Pittsburgh State tried to do it. A lot of teams have tried to do it, and only one team has managed to do that, and that was Ouachita Baptist. And so it's going to be a very tough game, but Grand Valley does have a good defense and an ability to slow down the running game, and they're going to really have to, because you play Harding, you got to be very disciplined against the run.
The Lakers will be playing at home as well. We'll see how the crowd turns out for that matchup, with it being Thanksgiving weekend. Obviously, colder temperatures. The Lakers traditionally have not drawn quite as well in the postseason as they do during the regular season.
That's not a lot different than everybody else. It's tough. I mean, it's a holiday weekend, and a lot of students are going to be at home and enjoying the break. And again, as well, they probably should. And temperatures in a couple of days after Thanksgiving are usually starting to get chilly, so it's going to be a challenge. But still, you're going to be sleeping in your own bed, and you're going to be in familiar surroundings, and you're going to have a chance to whatever crowd you get. And Grand Valley, they'll have a good crowd. might not be, 13, 14, 15,000, but they're going to have a good crowd. And it's going to be their goal to see if they can capitalize on maybe some of that energy from the crowd that they have there.
Be interesting to see what they do at quarterback. Avery Moore did not play this past week. You'd expect him to be out there on the field in a big game like this.
I think if he's able to, I would expect that he'll be out there. But, they're getting some experience from, some of their backup quarterbacks. And they also take pride in running the football. And so, but they have some weapons on the outside that they want to be able to utilize. And so I think that's going to be a goal for them against a Harding team that's pretty tough and certainly going to be playing with even more confidence that they had coming off that huge win over Pitt State.
Well, let's move to the other side of the bracket where, of course, we had just one other game that took place. It was the opponent this week, Central Oklahoma, defeating Ouachita Baptist 38-31 in overtime, a game that was kind of back and forth down the stretch. I thought Ouachita Baptist, a team that was a little bit unknown coming in, really came out and played pretty well against Central Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think maybe some people were underselling Ouachita Baptist a little bit, but man, I mean, they put up 30-plus points in that game against Central Oklahoma, and they were able to do it in a couple of different ways. They were able to run the ball against Central Oklahoma, but give Central Oklahoma credit because Ouachita came down, scored late, and we were kind of keeping a kind of side eye on that game while we were calling our basketball game. But, give them credit. Central Oklahoma was able to just put together a big drive down the stretch, and they were able to find a way to get it done at home, and they get a chance to advance. But it was a really good battle, maybe a better battle than what some people expected. Ouachita Baptist put up quite a fight.
Of course, Ouachita Baptist had a big win earlier this year, handed Harding its only loss of the season. Central Oklahoma, though, a team that's been very explosive offensively and able to find enough points to come away with the victory.
Yeah, they did, and Ouachita was able to force overtime, but give Central Oklahoma credit. They were able to come back and get into overtime and able to get a score, and then they were able to get a stop. And so that's what good teams do. But Central Oklahoma is a different type of team than maybe what we've seen as much of over the course of the season. They very prolific quarterback and ability to spread you out and pass the ball really well. They can run it a little bit too. They've got a good offensive line. So they're going to be a tough matchup for anybody.
We'll talk more about them as the show goes on. Back with more of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this quick break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you, and we're joined now by Ferris State University quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. And Trinidad, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What's it been like here back into game week after a bye week and preparation here for Central Oklahoma in the playoffs?
The bye week was great. Great rest. Watched football the whole day and watched football Sunday, and it was good. Watch all the D2 playoff games as well too. We ended up watching the Ouachita and Central Oklahoma game. Also watched the Grand Valley State Indianapolis game, and then we peeped the Harding versus Pitt State game too as well. So it was just football this whole weekend, and it was just nice to rest.
How important was that for the guys, to get that extra week of rest and kind of heal up a little bit before you hopefully make a long playoff run?
Yeah, it was nice. Well-needed bye week. I'm glad that we finished the season off strong, beating Saginaw Valley and Davenport. I know they were tough teams, but we ended up getting it done, winning the GLIAC, which was nice, and ended up earning the bye week. And, yeah, that was just great. Got our guys rested.
For you, obviously, congratulations being named the GLIAC Player of the Year. What did that mean to you as a personal accomplishment?
It was a blessing. All thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Just honestly, just grateful and blessed. I know this season has been rocky at the beginning of the year, and I'm grateful for the ups and downs of this season. But yeah, it was just a great thing to receive, and I'm just grateful.
I know you're obviously a team guy. What did it mean to have so many other guys named to the All GLIAC team? I think 20 different players were on that list of All GLIAC selections. Yeah,
all deserving. My offensive linemen, they all should have been all conference first team, I think, but obviously that doesn't go the way that it does. But yeah, like Cannon had a great year. I think he deserved, first team all conference. I believe that other, guys on our team and our offense deserve to be, higher up in like the first team and second team, but that doesn't work. But, I'm just so proud of our guys. They've worked their tails off in the off season and throughout the season, keeping their bodies healthy, maintaining, great focus, throughout the season, watching film and just being as prepared as possible for each game. And I'm just happy where we are right now.
Obviously, you guys won the GLIAC championship in the regular season, and great accomplishment after last year. What did it mean to be able to call yourselves the regular season champions?
It's so nice. I think 2021 was it? Last time we won GLIAC in one conference, which was kind of a while ago, honestly, now looking back on it. But yeah, it's great to, be GLIAC champs again and having that title under our belt. We obviously have bigger dreams and aspirations of hopefully winning a national title this year, but we just got to keep, working day by day, game by game, can't get too ahead of ourselves. So yeah, it's just amazing that we won the GLIAC though, but I'm just really happy about that.
And as Rob mentioned, I know you're a team guy through and through, and your growth over the course of the season, I want you to parallel it with your offensive line's growth, because something happened, I think in particular, that Michigan Tech game where your offensive line just took off even more so, and you guys really just started to hit a stride. But talk about your offensive line and how they've grown over the course of the season.
Going into the year, we knew that they'd be one of the best offensive lineman groups in the nation. Obviously, the beginning of the year was kind of rocky at first, but yeah, that Michigan Tech game was huge. They've called themselves the Nasty Boys all season, and that game, I really think it flipped a switch, I guess. They'd really dominated up front ever since then. Obviously, the whole season too. Grand Valley especially, that was a crazy performance by them. Just so many holes and opportunities for me, myself, and other slots and running backs to do something with the ball in open field, and without them, none of that's possible. So just great credit to them up front. They've just been amazing, and shout out to Coach Parker as well. He's got those boys right every game.
What's it like for you to, you mentioned the offensive line, and then you mentioned Kenan Katzer a little bit and what he's been able to do. And when you have, a stable of running backs like you guys have that all bring different strengths, and what is it like having that stable of running backs back there? So maybe you don't have to take quite as much of a pounding because you got those guys back there that can handle the ball.
Right. Obviously, the running back is the only other back in the backfield with me. I got to trust that, running back. And I trust my guys. I trust Kenan Katzer. I trust Zach Ahern. I trust James Kobe. I trust Zamir Knighton. Even redshirt freshman Kevell Cooper, too. So, our running back group right now is stacked. I think that it's one of the best in the nation. And if Kenan goes down, if he needs, a breather or whatnot, I think Zach is capable of, playing as good as he has been before. And that's just great. And it's huge that we have, great depth in all of our, receiving core, offensive line, even quarterback room too. So.
And, talk about, I know we talked about this before and we talked about this several times, but, after that first game of the season and you guys really knew what you had and you guys did not panic at all and you guys just kind of got back to work and just talk a little bit about that, because that takes a lot of maturity on the part of you all as a team and you all as individuals to really kind of refocus and not panic, because in football season you get one loss and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh wait, where are we going to go from here? But that didn't happen with you guys.
Right. After the Pitt State game, it was kind of like a step back and then look at who we are as a team, see what we can do to change what happened in that game, and obviously learn from our mistakes, because without failure, you're not learning. And I think it helped us in a great way this season, because for me personally, it just helped me open my eyes up and just see wow, this is, D2 football. This is, the real thing. And our whole team just knew that, and we knew that we were a great team, and we knew that wasn't our best performance against Pitt State. And I feel like if we would have saw them down the road, but not anymore because they ended up losing. But I was kind of hoping we would see them. But if we were, going to see them, then I think it would have been a way different game.
What was it like? Let's go back to something you said when you were talking to Rob about having a chance to kind of sit back and watch some of those games across the nation. And we were too. We were broadcasting and we were still trying to keep up with what's going on around the nation. And what's it like to be able to just kind of take a step back and look at what other people are doing? And especially, I know you had a special interest in the Ouachita Central Oklahoma game.
It was cool to see, all the games. Obviously, playoff season is way different because your season's on the line. Seniors last year playing, so it really shows how tough and gritty teams are and how good they are. It was cool to see the Ouachita Central Oklahoma game, because if you actually watch that game, it was back and forth. Towards the end, I think Central Oak let up a touchdown with 2 minutes left to Ouachita. and they ended up having a crazy drive, and then they ended up scoring, but then Ouachita came back with like 30 seconds left, got in the field goal range, kicked it, went into overtime, and then obviously Central Oklahoma took care of business. But it was cool to see, other games like Indy versus GV. I know Indianapolis has a solid program. My roommate Jeremiah Lee went there, so he was tuned into that game. So it was cool to see them fight. I know they're not really in a great conference, as most would say, but it was cool to see them, compete with Grand Valley, because I know Grand Valley is an awesome team and they're just a really great program. And yeah, we knew how Harding was. They're just an unbelievable program, so we might end up seeing them. So,
well, and then one more question before I kick it back to Rob, but Super Region 3 is stacked. I mean, like you look at that bracket when it came out, and like this is like a national championship bracket right there. And like, what's it like knowing that in this region, in our conference, the GLIAC, you guys got to be sharp. You got to really be at your best like every single game.
Right. No, I mean, they say that Super Region 3 is the gauntlet, and most likely than not, the team who usually comes out of Super Region 3 is the national championship or champion. So, I mean, it's tough. We have great teams in our region. We know what to expect, in the playoffs. The bye really helped, not have a game, and so it helps eliminate some teams off, but, just like this week, Central Oklahoma, it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be an easy team to go up against, so we have to be ready for that. And we know that, but, yeah, I mean, honestly, just excited for the opportunity to play, other teams like Central Oklahoma, possibly Harding, Grand Valley, and then obviously in the other regions, maybe them.
Trinidad, what's the preparation kind of been like here this week as you guys get ready to face Central Oklahoma on Saturday?
We're preparing for an odd, kind of unique defense. They're more 3-down, have more DBs than usual. A lot of stand-up linebackers and edge guys. But honestly, it's just we're running the same plays that we've been running. Nothing's really changed. It's a similar game. Coach honestly mentioned, and he said that the past 2 games of our regular season game were probably harder than most games because of, their coaching staff has been at Ferris, and they're obviously in our conference. Coach Sparky and Coach Brady. Yep, Coach Brady. And so they've always seen our offense throughout, year in, year out. They know what to expect. And, teams like Central Oklahoma and other teams that we haven't seen like ever really, it's kind of hard for them to, know what to expect from our offense because our offense is so, like unique and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just the same thing this week, getting our minds right, focusing up. We know it's a big game, but we're ready.
Obviously, growing up in Michigan, you have Thanksgiving weekend. You've got Michigan, Ohio State. I know the high school football finals at Ford Field here on Thanksgiving weekend. What does it mean to be playing here still and being out on the field here on Thanksgiving weekend?
It's great. Back in high school, never really got a chance to play postseason games. I played at Forest Hills Northern, but now it's different. So I got to get used to this as well, like playoffs. But it's cool. I'm excited. For me personally, it's just another game. It's cool to, be home or be home in Big Rapids. Spend Thanksgiving here up with my guys. I think we eat at Crankers, which is cool. But yeah, I'm excited for, if we ended up winning, then we'll have a great Sunday Thursday then. We'll watch the Bears-Lions game. And yeah, that's always a treat to, watch football, eat a lot of food, and just enjoy ourselves. So,
what does it take for you guys to come out on Saturday and hopefully play a great football game and get a win?
Just being ourselves, be calm, just play the right way, no mistakes, limit turnovers, just play as a whole team, do your job, just the usual stuff that we've been preaching on all year.
Obviously, I know you guys have some big goals here, and it starts really got to take it kind of one game at a time here in the playoffs. Yeah,
definitely. We can't get too ahead of ourselves. Central Oklahoma won a pretty hard conference, MIAA. They got Pitt State, Northwest Missouri State. So that's a tough conference, and for them to win, a lot of respect to them. And we know that. We know that they're a great team. But, yeah, just day by day, game by game. So,
well, Trinidad, thanks for the time, and best of luck on Saturday as you guys get ready to face Central Oklahoma.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Blitz football radio show presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you as we preview this week's opponent, Central Oklahoma, which comes in to face the Bulldogs here in the second round of the NCAA Division II playoffs. Saturday, a noon kick at Top Taggart Field with pregame coverage, of course, starting at 11 a.m. and the first ever matchup between the Bulldogs and Central Oklahoma this Saturday here in Big Rapids.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, one of the cool things about the playoffs, and I guess in some ways, and increasingly in the regular season, is an opportunity to play some teams that you're not quite as familiar with. But, Central Oklahoma is a team you better get familiar with pretty quick. For them to emerge out of the MIAA is really impressive and a statement from that program. And so it's going to be fun to face that program just for the way that they've risen up in the ranks and in the national rankings, and also a team that plays a little bit of a different style. That's going to definitely be one that's going to test any team that they're going to play.
You talk about playing new teams. I remember doing some of the series records, the results over the years. When we first made the playoffs, I think back in 2014 under head coach Tony Anise, the Bulldogs traditionally hadn't played a lot of different opponents. It was a lot of the same teams year after year, or at least every couple seasons. It seems like every year we're playing somebody from a new state, a new conference, a new part of the country here over the last 10 years or so.
I think, with the GLIAC, I think a lot of our teams in the GLIAC are becoming kind of national programs in the sense that they're finding these teams, and we played out in Seattle, Washington, and we played in Springfield, Massachusetts. So pretty much from one coast to the other, we've played, and so but at the same time, it's given us some opportunities to see different styles, to see different regions, to see different things and the way people do things, and so this is going to be another one of those matchups, and right in Middle America, literally, and it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun, and to play a team from that conference that we haven't really seen is going to be a lot of fun, and to bring them here is going to be fun for us, and we'll see if it's fun for them. But weather is going to be interesting to see what happens. But we know we're facing a great team that has been lighting up the scoreboard, and so defense is going to have to be ready.
Of course, coming into the year, we knew we had a couple long trips. Bulldogs made the trip with a charter flight to Pittsburgh, Kansas, then to American International. You get some of those trips over the years in the playoffs, like we've had in the last 10 years or so, where you get some of those charter flights, those long trips. I haven't had a whole lot in the regular season. We had 2 in the regular season this year, and you wonder if there's going to be a bunch more in the playoffs. Well, the road to McKinney, Texas runs right through Top Taggart Field as the Bulldogs came back, earned the number 1 seed here in Super Region 3, and they're going to have to take it one game at a time, but it really sets up nicely playing these playoff games at home.
It is, and it's something that you've earned, and you should feel pretty proud of, but you should also not lose sight of the opportunity, because it's a great opportunity to be playing at home, having teams having to travel here, having to travel into Grand Rapids and then drive up to Big Rapids to play these games, and to really come to our stadium. And Ferris State has obviously been very good on the road, of course, but they've also been very good at home at Top Taggart Field. And so it's a great opportunity, and I know our players, I know our coaches, they understand what they've earned, and they want to protect what they've earned by taking care of business one game at a time, starting with Central Oklahoma.
Of course, a 10th consecutive playoff appearance here for the Bulldogs under head coach Tony Anise, going back to 2014, and 10 straight years the Bulldogs lead the country with the most consecutive playoff appearances, and I know a streak that really means a great deal here to this program and this staff.
It does. I mean, because not every team gets an opportunity to play even one time in the national tournament, and to have an opportunity to play for a national championship and to have the run that the Ferris State has had is really a testament to the standard of excellence that the coaches have implemented, the standard of excellence that the athletic department and the university have invested in. And we were talking, we've been talking about having a complete athletic program, and that means a lot to everybody here at Ferris State. And football has certainly been one of those standard bearers in terms of being at or near the top of their sport. And so that means competing for GLIAC championships, competing for regional supremacy, and then having an opportunity, you hope, to compete for national championships. Of
course, we've been doing this a long time, covering the Bulldogs. Does not become old hat. I remember Ferris State did not make the playoffs in about 20 years, from the late 1990s, 1996, I believe, yes, until 2014, when the Bulldogs made the playoffs for the first time under Coach Anise with Jason Vanderlaan at quarterback, in a tough game against Ohio Dominican. I still remember that first playoff game very well that we had a chance to call, and it's been quite the run since then, but always a lot of fun calling playoff football.
Yeah, you mentioned going back to 1996 when I was a writer at the Ferris State Torch as a student. So that tells you how long ago that was. The white hairs that I've shaved off, you might be able to see. But it had been a long time since the Bulldogs have been able to make the playoffs, and to see them work their way back, it's definitely something you don't take for granted. You mentioned it there. It does not become old hat because of how much you have to put into it to be able to get there. And so there are a lot of teams across this country that are working hard to be able to get into the playoffs, and for the Bulldogs to be able to do it 10 straight times is a testament to this program.
I know we heard Coach Anise after the win over Davenport, very emotional, talking about his mother who passed away here earlier this fall, and just what it meant to be playing still here on Thanksgiving weekend, which he's had a chance to do a number of times over his coaching career.
Yeah, I think I think he spoke of, in part, of the sacrifices that coaches have to make and that broadcasters have to make, and they invest into a football program. They invest into young men that are a part of this football program. They invest in their coaching peers in their athletic department in their university, and Coach Anise is just great guy, and I think that statement that he made and that expression that he made in that post-game press conference after Davenport, I think really speaks to the kind of person he is, and that he was a family person, and that he had the opportunity to share some last moments with his mom, and I know that meant a lot to him. And it's there's a lot that goes into it, and we're grateful for the sacrifices that our coaches, our student athletes make.
Of course, Ferris State will take on a very good opponent, as you noted, here in Central Oklahoma this Saturday at noon, making the long trip from Edmond, Oklahoma. I've been there. Actually, my in-laws live just outside of Edmond, Oklahoma, so I certainly know where it is, and it's a long trip, but they're obviously going to be taking a charter flight, I'm sure, coming from Oklahoma, so it'll shorten the trip a little bit for them, but will be a little different in terms of the surroundings. They haven't played in Michigan, I don't believe, to my knowledge, before, so it'll be a little unique from their perspective.
And not only Michigan, northern Michigan to some extent, and so it's going to be it is a long trip, and we've had to make some long trips, of course, and it's going to be something that they are not only going to have to make a long trip, but they're going to have to adjust to any of a number of possibilities in terms of weather, and so they'll come in, and I'm not sure when they're going to come in, but I'm sure they'll want to come in and try to get acclimated to the weather and to the conditions, to the stadium, and it's a big playoff game, and you want every advantage you can get for your team.
Of course, I know a lot of people talk about the weather and how that'll impact a team coming from the South, but I'm not one that really concerns myself a whole lot with weather. I think good players and great players are going to find a way to make great plays. We saw West Florida do that back in 2019 when people were talking about the weather here in Big Rapids, and they came up and played very well and got a big win in the fourth quarter.
Well, I'll even one up that. I mean, we've got a number of Florida players on our team, and those are some of the guys that over the years they've liked playing in the weather as much as anybody, and they haven't been uncomfortable playing in the weather. And so you mentioned West Florida. That game, at the risk of bringing up a bad memory, that game in 2019 when we played them, that was about as cold a game outdoors as you can get. And so you're right. It's not an advance to the second round or the next round free card. So you're going to have to come to play. And these are some good players on that Central Oklahoma team, just like Ferris State has some good players, and they have not gotten this far in the season by accident.
Of course, they are guided by a coach that's got a lot of playoff experience, a veteran head coach, Adam Durrell, who was a former head coach at Northwest Missouri State. He was there when we made the playoffs, went to the semifinals in 2016, and suffered a tough loss down in Marysville, Missouri. Went on to the Division I level, and now back at Central Oklahoma, year number 2, and has really kind of rebuilt that program.
What I remember about that 2016 game was that was one of the best Division II football teams I've seen in person. That was a really, really good team. And, he did a great job of building that program. And you look at it, he comes back into Division II and look what he's doing at Central Oklahoma. So, I mean, just a great coaching staff and great leadership on that coaching staff. And, he's going to have his team ready to play.
Of course, they've got a number of players that have really put up some impressive numbers this year. Starts with the quarterback. They played a couple different guys. Jed Huff, I think, is the guy that's back as the starting quarterback now. Actually was the starting quarterback, played very well most of the year, then got replaced late in the year. Might have had some injuries as well. I'm not sure down the stretch, but Dawson Hurl came in, did a nice job. Then he was hurt, and Jed Huff comes back, throws for nearly 400 yards last week in the win over Ouachita Baptist.
So, I mean, the long and short of it is expect nothing and prepare for for everything. Just go in there just knowing that you could see a lot of different things. But the one thing again that they use a lot of their skill players. They've got some really talented skill players, and they like to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers to have them make plays. And I've had a chance to see them a couple times this year, and they are really a dynamite team when they have it going. And you saw that at times against Ouachita Baptist, and they were able to spread people out, and they move that ball down the field really quickly at times, and they can strike fast on you. So it's going to be a great challenge.
You never know what is going to happen, but I do feel pretty confident that Jed Huff will be the guy. I saw actually a post from the backup quarterback, Dawson Hurl. His father played basketball at the University of Nebraska at Kearney when I was there, so I know him very well. And he did post something about his son was injured and probably not likely to play the rest of the year. So you never do know, though. We'll wait and see what happens, but they've got some tremendous playmakers no matter who it is out there.
Well, and we've talked about it with the Bulldogs, and you have to have that next man up mentality. It's a cliche, but it's true. I mean, when you hear a cliche a lot, there's probably some truth to it. And so, you got to have other people ready to step up. And one thing that Ferris State and many other of the top teams we see across the country have been able to do is when you have the inevitable injuries, who's going to be able to step in there and get it done? And Central Oklahoma has been blessed to have that person that can step in and get the job done. And so that means that you can't take any time off. You got to expect that you're going to see a great performance.
Of course, they come in 11-1 overall. We've had a chance to kind of get to know some of their guys just by reading things online, by watching a little video. There is one question we do have to decide before Saturday. It's, what is the mascot? Is it Bronco or Bronchos? I've heard it both ways, so that's going to be an interesting one. I tried to look it up online, and I'm still not entirely sure which is the right pronunciation for it.
I regret to inform you I'm not going to be able to help you with this because I've also heard it both ways, and I've heard that the H is silent. And so that's probably what I've heard the most here is as we get ready for the Bill Pink Bowl, because President Pink has a connection. Maybe we'll ask President Pink. Maybe he can sort through it and
he might
tell
be
us.
The guy.
he might be able to tell us. Well, we maybe have to get President Pink to tell us.
I think I did hear that in a meeting yesterday that he's got a degree from Central Oklahoma and obviously was an Oklahoma resident for a long time. So he's very looking forward to having Central Oklahoma come up here to face the Bulldogs.
He is, but he's still a Bulldog through and through. So we know President Pink, he's going to be on the right side of history, he believes, as he's certainly going to be rooting for the Bulldogs. But it's actually pretty cool to have a president that has connections with both schools. And so it's going to be another subplot in what should be a great game.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this quick break. Welcome back, everyone, to our final segment here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. So we get ready for postseason action, the second season playoff football here in Big Rapids on Saturday at 12 p.m. kickoff. Ferris State and Central Oklahoma in the second round of the Division II playoffs. The winner moves on to the Super Region 3 championship game.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot at stake, and moving your way through Super Region 3 is no small task. It's no small feat, and yet here the Bulldogs they've earned their way into a bye, and now they get an opportunity here to play a Central Oklahoma team that's coming off a great win, a great overtime win over a Ouachita Baptist team that was pretty tough, and we kind of knew that it was going to be a tough game for Central Oklahoma, but they found a way to get it done, and that's what great teams do. And it just shows you that when you come out of the MIAA with the record that they did, and you're not going to lay down, and they didn't, and they found a way to get a win over a tough Ouachita Baptist team.
Of course, before we get into talking a little bit more about Saturday's matchup and all that's going to take place here in terms of the football playoff action, we got to give a shout out to our Bulldog volleyball team, which has secured the top seed in the Midwest Regional. They will play host to the Volleyball Midwest Regional Tournament coming up December 5th through the 7th, next Thursday through Saturday at Bulldog Arena. Ferris State playing the first quarterfinal matchup on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. against 8th-seeded Missouri St. Louis. The Bulldogs winning the GLIAC Tournament Championship at home this past weekend was kind of a great way to spend the bye weekend, watching some Bulldog basketball, and then obviously celebrating a volleyball championship.
Yeah, that was fantastic. You mentioned it, getting a bye week from football, and it allowed us to really lock in on, a couple of great basketball games that we had a chance to call, and seeing a little bit of Bulldog hockey, and then really seeing the Bulldog volleyball team kind of see their way through GLIAC championship and to be able to beat a great Grand Valley team in the championship match. And Grand Valley's only losses this year have been to Ferris State. And so that shows you how good Grand Valley is. And so the Bulldogs really had a dominating performance. It was really great to be in Bulldog Arena and to have that arena packed and how loud it got in that arena, and the Bulldogs really responded with a great win.
We expect much the same next week as they play host to the Volleyball Midwest Regional. Tickets on sale at ferrisstatebulldogs.com/tickets. We talked about it earlier in the show. Not old hat for Ferris State football making the playoffs 10 consecutive years. How about Bulldog volleyball winning the GLIAC tournament championship 10 out of the last 11 seasons? The only year they didn't do it was the COVID-shortened season, which I know a lot of coaches don't take a whole lot of stock into that year. It was a kind of a shortened season.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. But, that standard of excellence, and we've talked about it a lot with football, but it's there for volleyball as well. And actually, if we want to be all the way honest about it, it's been there even longer for volleyball. They have really been tremendously successful. Coach Tia has done a great job of getting that program up and keeping that program up, and there's a great standard of excellence in volleyball. And you walk through the sports complex and you see the All-Americans, and you see the trophies, and you see the championships, and you see the success, and you know what that program is built on. And this has been a very special team, and it's been really fun to watch and follow this team. We talked about our football team sweeping those individual awards at the end of the regular season for football. Volleyball did much the same.
Volleyball won, I think, 5 of the 6 major awards, led by head coach Tia Branda-Wilhelm, named the GLIAC Coach of the Year, I think, for the 8th time in her career. Olivia Henneman-Delape named the GLIAC Player of the Year. Kaylee Mott, of course, the all-time assist leader in GLIAC history, was the Setter of the Year among some of the other awards. So tremendous accomplishments, and really those accomplishments for both football and for volleyball speak volumes to what these 2 programs have done on a national stage, both still number 1 in the country right now.
Yeah, how blessed are we to have this in the fall? I mean, what a fall season it's been, and 2 number 1 teams in the nation, and not just a pedestrian, stopping by and having a cup of coffee at the number 1 spot. They've been number 1 for weeks, and they've been able to know that they're going to take everybody's best shot. And that's what we've seen with football week in and week out. We've seen with volleyball week in and week out. Everybody's coming in volleyball. Volleyball's undefeated, and everybody wants to try to drop that first L on volleyball, and they've been able to stand tall against all those challenges. So it's been a really fun fall. I mean, you get 2 teams in 2 different sports, number 1 in the nation. That's outstanding, and both conference champions. Of
course, both Bulldog basketball teams off to great starts. The women right now ranked in the top 20 in the country. Just a couple losses, including one to number 7 Ashland last weekend. The Bulldog men, an impressive win over number 25 Findlay last Saturday. They've got just 1 loss on the year, and both teams gearing up to host Lake Superior State. Hard to believe, in the conference openers next Tuesday night here at Wink Arena.
Yeah, November's just flying by. And we're still trying to keep football and volleyball going as long as possible. And here comes basketball. Both basketball teams off to a great start. Both basketball teams coming off tremendous years last year. Both teams reaching the Elite 8, winning regional championships. And so here they come back this year, both in the national rankings and both with targets on their back, and yet both playing really well early.
Of course, the men moving up to number 9 in the nation. They're a top 10 team as well this week in the National Association of Basketball Coaches poll. I know head coach Andy Bronkema, his team, he's been focused on basketball quite a bit, but with his team having a little bit of a Thanksgiving weekend off, I'm sure they'll come back for practice as they gear up for Lake Superior. But, he's going to be there probably at Top Taggart Field on Saturday watching this team in action.
Hey, we know the Bronkemas, they're football guys too. And Coach Andy Bronkema is going to be around there. And obviously, he's got a great relationship with Coach Anise and the staff. And so, Coach Bronkema is going to be around there doing everything he can. He might try to see if he can find a whistle and sneak a whistle in his pocket and find a way to contribute. But, there's just great support across Ferris State athletics.
Of course, I know the Bulldog football team looking forward to what should be an outstanding matchup against Central Oklahoma. A lot of Bulldog fans expected to be here. I know some the fans that follow this team week in and week out have already bought their tickets. We encourage fans to buy tickets online in advance, ferrisstatebulldogs.com. Just $10 for adult tickets here for this Saturday's playoff game. And you can't beat playoff football here in Big Rapids.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have had plenty of turkey and plenty of sides and a lot of family time. If you need a little break from family time and you want to walk off some of those calories from Thanksgiving, come out and bundle up. But come out and support the Bulldogs in playoff football, because there's just really not a lot like playoff football at this time of the year, and an opportunity to take another step forward in your list of goals that you have. And this is the first step for the Bulldogs in terms of the playoffs.
Of course, you can buy your tickets online, ferrisstatebulldogs.com/tickets, as the Bulldogs get ready to face Central Oklahoma for the first time ever here in the Division II playoffs. Ferris State in the playoffs for a nation-leading 10th consecutive year, but it's win or go home, and the Bulldogs are going to have to be up to the challenge on Saturday and be ready to go at kickoff time.
Yeah, they're going to have to be ready to go for sure. And and we know that what we've seen in recent weeks in particular is that the Bulldogs have been obviously save for the bye week, the Bulldogs have really been playing tough, and they've been playing really well. And we talked about coming into the regular season, we knew we started off with Pitt State in week 0, and then we knew that the back half of our regular season schedule was going to be really, really tough, and the Bulldogs are going to have to be ready to play. When you talk about Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley, Davenport at the end of your schedule, I mean, that's really, really some tough. In Michigan Tech at the end of your schedule, and yet the Bulldogs were able to run through that gauntlet.
Of course, Ferris State taking on Central Oklahoma in one half of Super Region 3. The other half, Harding and Grand Valley State that we talked about earlier. We could have a national championship type of game in the Super Region 3 final coming up next week. But all 4 teams, really, you got to be playing some great football here to move on here in this bracket in Super Region 3.
There's no question. I mean, these are 4 teams that feel like they have the talent, they have the ability to be a national champion. And so that says a lot about Super Region 3 right there. And so it's going to be a couple of great matchups. We'll certainly be keeping our eye on what's going on between Harding and GV. That's going to be a really interesting battle. It was last year. It was a great defensive battle last year with Harding able to score late to take that game. And then, Ferris State and Central Oklahoma, 2 teams that aren't as familiar with each other, but, 2 really great head coaches and 2 great coaching staffs, and they are going above and beyond during this week to prepare and give their teams the best possible chance to be successful.
Of course, I know we'll get into some of the keys during the pregame show on Saturday, which starts with the Johnson Automotive pregame show at 11 a.m. on Sunday 97.3 and the Bulldog Sports Network. But Ferris State going to be important for the Bulldog defense really to get some big stops here, hopefully early against this Central Oklahoma attack. Yeah,
we'll see what Central Oklahoma does if they do some rollouts and try to negate that Bulldog pass rush a little bit. We saw Davenport do a little bit of that in the regular season finale. So we'll see if Central Oklahoma tries to do that. That Bulldog pass rush, they come at you in waves, and they want to certainly be able to keep the Bulldogs off balance. So it's going to be important for the Bulldogs to be also sound in terms of the secondary is going to have to be really good. You're going to have to do a really good job there. And it's going to be really tough, really important for our linebackers. Our linebackers have to be really, really well. They have to call good games back there. They're going to have to be all over the place. And so that's going to be really important offensively for the Bulldogs. And again, we'll get into it more in the pregame show ahead of the game. But, I think it's going to be important for the Bulldogs to really establish the run. The offensive line's been playing really well. And so if the Bulldogs can really establish the run, they're going to give themselves a good chance to be successful.
Certainly should be an outstanding game on Saturday. A noon kickoff again at Top Taggart Field, Ferris State and Central Oklahoma. Here in the second round of the NCAA Division II football playoffs, the winner moves on to the Super Region 3 championship game on December 7th. The semifinals on December the 14th at 2 campus sites. And then, of course, the national championship game in McKinney, Texas at the McKinney ISD Stadium on December the 21st. The Bulldogs would love to get there again for the 4th time, but in order to do that, you got to take it one game at a time, starting here against Central Oklahoma on Saturday at Top Taggart.
Yeah, you take it one step at a time. It's a well-used cliche, but it's almost always seems appropriate. And so especially coming out of this region, with the quality of teams that we just talked about in this region, the quality of teams that are left in this region. These are 4 really strong teams and programs. Several of the programs that we're talking about. Grand Valley's been a national champion for sure, and Harding, Ferris State. So you've got some teams with some championship pedigree, and so you got to come ready to play.
This a little bit unique for Central Oklahoma. I don't think they've been to the playoffs in 20 years. So, but they got a big win in their first playoff game back here just last week against Ouachita Baptist.
I was going to say they did not play like a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in a couple of decades. They came in against a team that we've seen a couple different times in the playoffs that has a good tradition, and they really went toe to toe with them, and then went even a little step beyond to be able to win that game in overtime.
Big thanks goes out to Steve Masters at the Sunny 97.3 studios, along with Brody Kaiser for his production work and making this broadcast possible here on the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show. All of our advertising partners as well, thanks to them, including Two Hats Ranch, the presenting sponsor here of our weekly show. And we hope to be back next week to talk about a Super Region 3 championship matchup. But until then, we'll have a chance to call this playoff game on Saturday, starting with pregame coverage at 11. Again, a 12:02 officially kickoff time on Saturday, live on ESPN Plus with the video work provided by the Ferris State Television and Digital Media Production Program. Should be an outstanding game, and if Bulldog fans can't be at the stadium, we hope they can tune in or watch the game online here as the Bulldogs get ready to open up Division II football playoff action.
You can certainly watch it on TV. You can certainly listen to it on the radio. I would say record it on TV, and then you can listen to it on the radio in the stadium with your hat on, your mittens, and your coat, because we'd love to have you in the stadium cheering on the Bulldogs.
Sandy, have a happy Thanksgiving, and looking forward to the call on Saturday. Should be a lot of fun. We hope all the fans out there tuned in have a happy Thanksgiving as well, and we hope to see you top Taggart on Saturday. This has been the Bulldog Blitz Football Radio Show, presented by Two Hats Ranch.